Hello, my name is Ryan from Buster Beagle 3D. Typically on this channel I'm reviewing a bunch of machines, but today is a little different as I just felt like making some stuff, so I thought I might share that with everyone. I started off wanting to make a few clocks out of acrylic, and that led me to dive into another project, which was this cool layered globe piece, which I'll talk about after. First, I had been sent some of these acrylic sheets from xTool, so I thought that they would be perfect for this project. They sell these in multiple colors and are 3mm or 1/8 of an inch thick. They seem to be good quality and come with either paper or plastic protective covers on either side. I personally like the plastic ones better, but the paper ones work fine as well. It also comes with a card that gives you some parameters to cut with, which is a nice touch, or many of these values are already set up in xTool Creative Space as well. I will put a link to this and some of the other things in this video in the description. Some of them may be affiliate links that do help out the channel if you use them, but you could also go straight to the website if you prefer. First, I designed this clock to be cut out of 2 different colors of acrylic. I bought the number design off of Etsy as an SVG just to make that part of the setup faster. I think it was about $2, and so it was easier than making myself, which you can get at the link above and show that designer some love over on Etsy. Now, I made this clock once before, and like I was saying, it took 2 pieces of acrylic, and for this particular design, I put some cardstock between them to make the white letters, but it felt like a bit of a waste for the back piece of green plastic that was only showing up a little bit in the design. What I thought might be cool was to use the same amount of plastic and make 2 clocks where I swap parts between the cutouts, so I would essentially make 2 of them with the same amount of material. So that's what I did. I fired up the xTool P2 CO2 machine and cut the exact same design out on both the black acrylic as well as the green sheets. I ran both of these at 100% power at 20mm per second. It cut out very fast and very nice. I believe I ran the exact same job for both colors with the same settings. I then collected all the tiny little bits since I was going to be reusing everything. Now, since I wasn't going to have one of these acrylic pieces behind the other one, I still needed a base, but for that I could cut that out of wood instead. It's cheaper, easier, and provides a nice base for me. After that was done, now came the really hard part. Well, not really the hard part, but definitely the most time-consuming part. I had to individually remove protective sheets on both sides of the acrylic and reassemble the parts. I personally like the plastic protective coating on these green sheets since it's pretty much stayed as one piece when pulling it off, while the paper can tear, which means you might need a few tries to get all of it. I finally got the hang of it where I could get the paper off in one piece, but it did take some practice. Piece by piece, I assembled the 2 clocks. I also wanted to point out that I am only loosely assembling the parts right now. Nothing is being glued in while I put it together. After I had everything down, I placed a flat piece of acrylic on the top and flipped the design over so I could apply adhesive to the back. I like doing it this way to keep everything clean and adjustable until I was ready to glue it down. I did get a little glue on the front, which I ended up cleaning up later with some alcohol and a pencil eraser after everything dried. So with the 2 clocks already looking pretty good, I went to go buy some clock parts. You can go to places like Michael's and buy clock movements, but it costs around $10 to $12 for just one clock mechanism. With this other design that I had made before, I picked up a cheap clock from the dollar store and removed the clock mechanism to use on this clock. They were out, so I went to Target and got 2 of these clocks for $5 each. I just unscrewed the back and removed the glass to get access to the watch hands, which you can carefully pry off and then remove the movement from the back. So for $10, I got 2 clock mechanisms that I used. I felt bad throwing away the extra pieces, so I'll show you how I use them in just a second. First, after removing the hands, I really wanted them to be silver so they would show up better on the clock face. On the cheaper clock I got from the dollar store, I was able to easily remove the coating from the hands with some acetone, but these ones from Target seemed to be a higher quality, so the acetone did nothing. I broke out the xTool F1 and using the infrared laser, I ran a quick job on them to remove the coating back to the original metal. It was a quick and simple job, and now I have nice and contrasting clock hands. I then taped the clock movement to the back of the clock and installed the hands. On the Target ones, you really only have about 6 millimeters of depth to play with, so these just worked with 2 layers. On the other one that I got from the dollar store, there was a little bit more to play with, so just figure out what works for you. And there you have it, 2 clocks made with minimal and cheap parts. I still have to make a hanger for the back of these, which I'll probably 3D print, but they could be made out of wood as well. So after that little project was done, I felt bad just throwing away the parts that I didn't use on the clock I bought from Target, so I thought it'd be cool to make a layered piece that I could fit inside of the clock face. I thought about designing some sort of layered map or something, but before I spent the time to make it, I thought I would pop over to Etsy to see if anyone else had already done it and found exactly what I was looking for. I found this 6-layer SVG file of a map that I thought would look really cool inside of the clock parts. You can even use these files to make a clock as well, but I was really just interested in the map. I first made sure everything would fit, and then I dropped some wood into my xTool S1. Sure, I could have done the exact same thing on the P2, but the S1 was more convenient to me at the time. I figured out later that I couldn't cut all 6 layers out of the 3mm basswood I had, because if I stacked them together, it would have been too thick to fit in the clock face. I then realized that I could cut the top 5 layers and use a piece of paper on the bottom layer that I just printed off my printer in a darker color than the rest of the layers. I painted each layer a shade of blue from the bottom being the darkest to the top the lightest, with the top layer a bare wood. I also engraved the country border lines on the top section as well, but not the names. For the names, I thought it would be cool to engrave them on the back of the glass itself. I saw some other YouTube videos where they'd place glass on a black piece of paper, which essentially gives you markings on the back of the glass. I didn't have a good way of testing this first, so I just went for it, and it turned out a little bit darker than I would have liked, but it was still a cool effect. I just wiped the back with alcohol and it cleaned right up. Really, the hardest part of this design was finding all the small land masses that fell through the honeycomb while cutting. I used double-sided tape to keep many of the layers together, and then super glue for some of the finer details. Then I put everything back together, and I have to say I was pretty pleased with how this turned out, and I was happy to be able to reuse something that I was simply going to throw away at first. I'll drop a link to this design as well in the description, so be sure to show them some love over on Etsy as well if you like this project. So that's it. Pretty simple and sweet, and I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and consider subscribing for more content about laser engravers, 3D printers, injection molding, and all things maker. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.